you ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited that you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, a mom, and a wife with a strong faith, and for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you are ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hey, how are y'all today? This is Penny, and I am your host of the Becoming Natural podcast. Today's episode is episode number 23, The Advantage of Stillness for a Healthier Mind and Powerful Self-Care. Thank you so much for being here this week. Last week's episode about what to eat for Crohn's disease, or really any other GI issue for that matter, was clearly needed and very well received. So thank you. And I am so humbled and glad that I could provide some information. I know that Crohn's and ulcerative colitis and all the different diseases that affect our GI tract are not in a box, so everybody reacts differently, but anything that I can do to help, we can continue to work and talk and have that conversation. So thank you so much for listening, and I am so happy that I could be able to help start anyone heading in the right direction. What to eat is completely overwhelming when you're just diagnosed with a disease, or if you've been diagnosed for 10 years, but a disease that's rooted in what you eat. Where in the world do you begin? What you thought was right is wrong, and unlearning a lifetime of behavior is not only difficult, but it's incredibly stressful. I completely hear you. I remember many times simply getting so frustrated that I just didn't eat for fear of causing myself more pain, having no idea what would affect me in that particular meal. It was never the same and highly unpredictable. I was bloated, my tummy was burning, or I was nauseated. I knew I needed calories, but 30 years ago, I was still deeply entrenched in the medical model mindset. My GI doctor at Mayo Clinic told me, quote, hogwash. He used the word hogwash, that diet and nutrition had absolutely nothing to do with healing my gut. I hope he's retired by now, because seriously, even then, I knew that he was way off base. I was told to drink high-calorie liquid meal supplements. If you know what those are, we give them to our patients in the hospital all the time, which I now know are loaded with ingredients that would only cause me more pain. I drank liquid heartburn remedies by the gallon, also loaded with terrible ingredients and sugars. We simply didn't know any better, or I didn't. At least I was not in contact with anyone that knew any better. My favorite GI doctor through all the years was wise beyond his own years as a doctor, having seen so many specialists that told me what I should or shouldn't be doing or how I should be feeling. He said, even as a GI doctor, he did not know how it felt to have Crohn's because he didn't have it. He came from such a place of humility and wisdom that only increased my faith and trust in his skills and knowledge just because he was willing to say he didn't have all the answers. He always wanted to learn from me and asked me how certain foods or certain times of day made me feel. It was refreshing for me to have a doctor actually listening to me, genuinely interested in learning about a disease that has never fit inside a specific box, so he could learn more about Crohn's and how it presented in each of his patients. I was being advised by a rheumatologist that I was going to be taking pain meds for the rest of my life, and then I was taking another medication that removed my immune system by the system that was supposed to be healing me. I was defeated, discouraged, and hopeless with a dollop of fear of the worst on top. I want nothing more than to use my experiences that worked and share those that didn't work for me. I am not pretending to be a doctor, nor do I want to be. I just hear over and again how the system is letting those of us with autoimmune disease or GI disorders down, and we need to share and talk about it more. Even if it's ugly or gross, GI issues are not one size fits all, and it's so beneficial to learn from others that are in your shoes. I wanted to write a book at one time and call it Everybody Poops. I had to talk about it all the time. As a young 20-something, I had to report to my doctor every office visit the size, the color, the quantity, the frequency, the consistency of my poop. I lost my pride really fast. By the time I had babies, I had nothing left to lose. I was a pro at having no pride. I'm actually working on circling back to several of those bigger categories of foods that we discussed that I want to hit deeper because we hit them on kind of a high level last week, lots of information at one time. And I'm going to come back around to each of them. I'm having some interviews with people who know a little bit more than me or have experienced them. I'm pretty excited about it. So we're going to take a dive deeper into some of those food groups. So don't think that I've forgotten those. We're going to bring some of them back around to go into a deeper dive and understand them better for how or why they may or may not affect you with what particular issues that you have with your stomach. So I'm getting great information and I can't wait to release those recordings soon, ASAP. I've mentioned this before, but it is really funny to me, amazing actually, how each episode unravels the next in the most unexpected but very clear way. As much as I would love to say that I have 10 episodes pre-recorded and ready to go, I am still working on my rhythm over here. My quest for being super organized is still a work in progress, and I am giving myself lots of grace in that department. Building a website, launching a podcast, promoting a book, and trying to do it all well when I really don't know very much about any of it can get a little bit overwhelming, but I am learning to just let it go and roll with it. Eventually, I will perfect the Facebook page. Eventually, the website will be how I like it. Perfection is not the goal. Authenticity is, and I am a one-man show. So I can't do it all at once, and I am learning to be okay with that. So don't be disappointed in me where there are things that are unfinished or incomplete. It is coming. Apropos, actually, for today's episode, this past weekend, my husband and I attended a couples retreat at our church. I know that sounds like a snoozer, especially to my husband, but I thought it sounded fun and it was a good way to get a little bit more involved at our church. My husband agreed, so we went. And he was a good sport. It was fun and we met some great couples, actually. Do you want to guess what the opening was? Coming to the quiet. Insert big exhale. Letting go and being fully present in our lives. I don't know if it comes out as much on this podcast, but for me personally in my life, being still and slowing down have been my primary goals for the past 2 years. I am so passionate about this because I am working really hard to open up that space, to just be space, unplanned time every day. And I know that is a whole lot to ask of most people. Even unplanned time once a week is a start. Letting go of commitments that weren't fulfilling or leading me to places that challenged me in the ways that I wanted to be challenged, instead of choosing things that overwhelmed me and only increased my own guilt or for not keeping up with my family responsibilities that I had to my family, to my husband. I started focusing on saying no and clearing my plate. It was so fitting that this was the opening to our couples retreat that I just wanted to share some of the words of wisdom I gained because I feel like it resonates with so many people. I would love to challenge anyone out there that is trying to find their quiet or their peace. Maybe you know you need it, and maybe you haven't quite discovered that that's the piece of the puzzle that you're missing right now. Either way, it's not easy, but it is so necessary and truly a large piece of being holistically well. It is truly a work in progress for me. I am not perfect, so I am coming to you also from a place of humility as I work and figure out what works for me. And the more it comes up in conversation, I believe so many of us are really struggling with creating empty time in our days or just even once a week, like I said before. I can't be certain if it's my age, meaning the age of my kids and their respective activities, the fact that I have been renovating a house on and off for 6 years and I'm partially losing my mind, or if this is the world we have just accepted to live in these days. I'm leaning towards the latter because I know without a doubt that I am not alone. I hear it consistently in conversation from my friends. I reached a point where I could see that my life was becoming unmanageable. If I was really being honest with myself, my brain was a mess. I was forgetful. I couldn't find my words. I had the worst word finding. It was crazy. And I was always running behind. This is not the usually organized and planned Penny that I used to be, and I didn't like it. It was time to have an intervention with myself. My family was making snarky remarks to me. People that love me were observing these behaviors in me, but I knew there was something more to it. As a reminder, I said I have been working towards this for 2 years. This is not an overnight remedy. I have not arrived, and it has not been easy at all times, especially when I'm trying to do pieces and take steps that maybe my family doesn't understand is partially me working towards my goals. But I am in a much better place than I was when I had that first talk with myself. I dreamed of the 2 times I have made. Can y'all hear my dog barking in the background? I am so sorry. She is barking right outside my door. I dreamed of the 2 times that I have made big moves in my life, and I was able to literally cut all the ties of commitments at once due to moving to a new city. It was so refreshing. It was like lifting an enormous weight off my chest. Walking away from everything at once was so freeing. But both times I moved to new cities where I felt compelled to get back involved and meet new people and help my kids make friends and participate in this activity or that one. And soon enough, I found myself right back in the same cycle of chaos, living on a wing and a prayer. I juggled it all. Don't get me wrong. I could do it. I just felt overwhelmed and anxious while doing it all. And I bet many of you do too. But my truth talk was what I hated. I hated being forgetful. I hated feeling frazzled all the time, zipping from one activity to the next until I absolutely collapsed into bed at night. I hated that I felt like I wasn't prioritizing my entire family while maybe I was running one child to and from activities, or I wasn't prioritizing time with my husband because I was sacrificially getting my kids involved in their schools and events and meeting their friends and their friends' parents. None of these things were bad, but I was nearing my breaking point as far as all the things that I could juggle on my plate. I didn't know why I couldn't juggle it all like I thought I should be able to do with grace and ease, but ever so slowly I discovered I was a better version of myself, not when I added more to my schedule, but when I started taking things away. Crazy as it seems, it was a big aha moment for me, just to realize I needed less in my life. Shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it was. I think I had been burning at both ends for so long, keeping all the balls afloat through long-term illness, pushing through my pain, making sure I wasn't the reason my kids missed out on anything at all, pushing myself to heal and be normal, moving to a new state, making new friends. It really was a lot. And moms, friends, women, men, we all have so much on our plates these days because we're really terrible at saying no. And there's so many more things in life we feel like we have to do it all. I know when I was a child and I played a sport competitively, we had 1 practice a week. Now kids have practices like 5 times a week. So much more that we have to say yes to in order to keep up. I didn't even realize how overscheduled I was and how it was affecting my overall health. Being still is not easy. It is not easy at all. And I don't know about you, but the minute I sit still, I try to sit still, my brain starts whirling with my to-do list and the things I need to do or have already forgotten to do. 2 years ago, I literally could not sit still without my brain immediately kicking into gear like a machine gun with a list of things I needed to be doing beyond sitting still. And it never stopped. Inevitably, anytime I tried to sit down for just a moment, I ended up getting up to do something I thought I had to do right then. And then I ended up chasing my tail, never sitting down again, never getting the rest, never getting the peace and the quiet, staying on the hamster wheel of chaos. I've been told to have a notebook by your bed, which is a great idea, or in your purse to write down your thoughts so you can let them go. I found that I liked using the reminders app on my phone, which I know bittersweet. We want to use the phone less, but at the same time, I love the reminders app. I have a list for every day of the week, and I just add my to-dos to the list for the day. I have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all color coded. And my habit has gotten to be to look at my calendar on my phone the night before as I go to bed to see what I have on tap for the next day. Gratefully, it has been less and less these days, which means I'm getting better, but I check off what I accomplished that day if I hadn't already, and I'm really quick to check those off, so usually there's nothing unchecked. And if I didn't make it to an item that day, I move it to the next day. And I don't know about you, but I'm the girl who adds something to the grocery list or to my checklist that wasn't on the list, but I did, just so I can go back and check it off. I guess that's a little bit of OCD in me, but I love a good checklist because it keeps me focused, especially when I know I have a dozen things to do and I don't know where to start. Having that checklist to get me started is a gift. I also have specific lists that I'm working on that are in a constant state of development, you could say. I'm trying to create lists of regular things that I need to do each day, things that occur on a weekly basis all the time. In the reminders app, you can turn them all back on after you've cleared the weekly items and start back over with reinventing the wheel. I mean this like for my podcast, certain things that I do every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday. I would love to tell you this is how I operate right now. I'm getting better, but I'm flying by the seat of my pants these days. But that's my goal. And it's awesome. And Lord have mercy, last night I finally loaded all of my taxes and information to my accountant's website. And oh, cha-ching, check that baby off the list because I just kept pushing it to the next day and the next day. And every night I would move it over to the next day until I finally got it checked off. After a month, it felt so good. I really didn't intend for this to turn into an organizational podcast, I promise, but there's a lot to organization in our brain. But getting your thoughts organized 100% affects how you feel, what you accomplish in a day, how you show up for your family and friends, and most importantly, it affects your health. If you're stressed all the time and never get to bring it down a notch and breathe, your stress hormones are causing so many things in your body to get out of whack. It doesn't matter why your thoughts are everywhere. Maybe you're ADHD. I uncovered some PTSD in my journey, but maybe you really are overcommitted. And maybe there's a little bit of spiritual warfare going on to keep you from being still and resting and spending time peacefully with the Lord. It could be any number of things for any person, but regardless of the why, we can certainly work on this together. This whirling of thoughts and to-dos in the silence impedes me when I want to simply sit down for some quiet time for my Bible study or to pray. Whatever you want to use your silence for, inevitably, when we stop moving, our brains start firing. At least mine does. But our brains are what need the silence. They need the zero rest. They need the zero input. They need the rest. The best advice I received recently was turn off all your notifications on your laptop. I work off my laptop and use the focus mode on my phone when I want to have more focus while I'm working. If I'm working, my phone goes in the other room where I can't hear it, and there are no notifications on my laptop, so I can truly focus without the bells and whistles going off unnecessarily. If I need quiet time, I have to put my phone in another room. A text will come through, a phone call, nothing that is necessary, but always a distraction. I'm a big believer that the phone is a convenience to me, not to the person calling me from the vet to tell me that my dog's appointment is next week. That's just another distraction that can be avoided and read later and grouped when you go through your voicemails or your emails or your texts. And so you're not coming back and forth and having to re-engage and figure out where you are and start all over again. The statistics of how many times we look at our phones are ridiculous. I don't have them written down. I hear it all the time, but I am working on reducing my own statistic of looking at my phone. Funny, because I do still have to text my husband to tell him that I am turning on my focus mode because he won't call me all day long. Yet he always seems to call when I have my focus mode on or when I'm trying to record a podcast. And if he can't get a hold of me, it becomes a thing. Am I alone? Does anybody else's husband like obsess over where they are if they can't get a hold of him? Maybe it's my health issues in the past, but he's certain that something has gone terribly wrong if he cannot get a hold of me. I should be very grateful that he cares and that I am. And he does care. He just has the worst case scenarios implanted in his brain. We have to work on his issues in another way. But it is such an accomplishment for me to just find a physical place of peace and add to it a mental place of peace from all the demands going on around me. I was so hurried and scattered. Just getting to that place of peace was as wonderful and refreshing as being in prayer for me many times. I craved just a moment of nothingness. Psalm 34:8 says, taste and see that the Lord is good. And I always think about that. Once you get a taste of this stillness and this calm and the peace that comes over your body, you crave that time. Have that notepad ready for the thoughts that pop into your head close by, because your phone most certainly will be in another room. Practice just finding a place to plop for 15 minutes. And it's not easy the first time or the second time, but as you are consistent, I promise it gets easier. I dare you. If you want to remove the concern for time, which was a huge distraction for me, I was worried. Have I been here too long? Did I miss the time? Is it time for me to go? I set an alarm on my phone or a timer on an appliance, because I promise if you're quiet and if your house is quiet, you will immediately start thinking, how much time do I have left? Or did it take too long? Or did I miss picking up my son at school? Then if you have an alarm, you can truly let go and not worry about time, commitments, responsibilities, what you have to do or what you need to do. And if anything pops into your head that's completely important in your mind, write it on that notepad. Give your body just 15 minutes to refresh in total peace. Start with 15. You'll want more. But you know how that last 10 minutes of yoga feels that you have when you feels like you've had an hour nap just by laying there in the silence for 10 minutes? This will be 15 minutes you look forward to having every single day when you find that place of peace and when you get into the habit. It is not easy to begin, but once you force yourself into a place of peace and feel your heart rate go down, listen to your breathing, hear the stillness in your body, it will become your favorite 15 minutes of the day. More if you can. Let go of the need to rush and do all the things. Embrace taking care of your body, not just with diet and exercise as is crammed down our throats, and we should, but exercise only pushes us to activity and go, 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 go. Through this, we're just trying to focus on resting. Allow your body to heal from life stresses by allowing it to be still with zero input into the brain. Just be still. Be still and know that I am God. Biblically, we are called to spend an entire day resting, the Sabbath on Sunday. That is a dream that I can't fathom right now. To rest for an entire day is a bit unthinkable for me, but I have goals too. For me, when my kids were all younger, I went to my room an hour before I knew they would be home from school. Lord knows I didn't get an hour of rest because it took me forever to unwind, settle in, clear the distractions and thoughts, and truly sit in peace. So by the time they walked in the front door, I was completely refreshed. The prayer that was given to us back to the couples retreat as we opened that retreat was written by Ted Loder from Gorillas of Grace, and I'll link that up in the show notes. But it says, soothe my tiredness, quiet my fretfulness, curb my aimlessness, relieve my compulsiveness. Let me be easy for a moment. Oh my word, can I get an amen? Let me be easy for a moment. It goes on to say, release me from the fears and guilts, expectations and opinions, which grip me so tightly. Reading back over that prayer today just reinforces to me how God himself is such a peaceful, quiet place of rest for me. I long for that peace. I crave that peace. It's addictive once you felt it. We get ourselves into too many commitments, clubs, appointments, lunches, even if they are really good commitments with great people doing great things. You don't have to be everything to everyone. Pick and choose wisely. Pace yourself. Do some activities this year and save some for next year. Hopefully, you're getting healthy and have a long life ahead of you to do all the activities. In the last year, I was very much convicted by traveling too frequently Ouch. Yes, I did a lot of fun travel, but I also had multiple trips for my business, which I loved. But suffice to say, having been a stay-at-home mom for 21 years now, my family does not function very well without me. Yes, they function and they do a good job, but they still call to ask where the jersey is or what time the appointment is. And when I come home and the house is a wreck, I try not to twitch because I'm so excited to be home and see everyone again before I gear up for all the laundry and pulling the house back together. They really do try, and I am not here to throw my family under the bus, but they just don't do it the way I do it. So I smile and I say, thank you. I have always had my hand in multiple pots with lots of interest, but going on all those trips just aren't necessary anymore. Fun? Yes, especially when you win the trip, but it's not necessary. Learning to say no to trips that aren't necessary or take away from your family or your priorities is really hard. Just this fall, I said no to a trip that I won. It was free, but I would have missed a ball game and a homecoming, and I would have felt all the guilt, which between having 3 teenage boys, I want to be present for everything. I already have one in college. I want to be present for the things that they're doing. I can't replace those moments. So for me, I prioritized being at home and I missed the wonderful trip, but I don't regret it. They really don't care if I miss things or not. If you have teenage boys, I'm sure you know, but I care and I know, and I think they'd certainly notice in their hearts when their mom is missing. We should seek those quiet moments alone with God in the same enthusiasm and excitement as meeting a friend for lunch. Look forward to the peace in a weekend at home with your family, having zero plans at all. Maybe impromptu plans pop up, or maybe no plans happen at all. Being okay with the nothingness is where I'm headed, and such a beautiful place to be, not only with my kids, but with my husband too. And I don't think it's bad to plan and say no to potential plans from friends if you just want to be home and say no and be still. There's nothing wrong with that. You tell everybody else, I have plans, and my plans are to be home and do nothing. I know we all have different strongholds in our life. While the quote, release me from the expectations and opinions piece of that prayer probably plagues many of us, I can reflect and truthfully say that facing and enduring all my health issues, and definitely not pretty ones, I overcame a lot of expectations of myself and others' opinions of me pretty fast. I identify more closely with the battle of releasing myself from fears and guilts the most. That was mentioned as well. Our world holds expectations for the Pinterest perfect mom as much as it does for the full-time working mom, and I certainly experienced and put those pressures on myself when my kids were younger. Key words, I put them on myself or allowed others to put them on me. Either way, as moms, we have to juggle it all with a smile on our face, the perfect house with the perfect children, have dinner ready, and never miss or complain. And if we don't reflect June Cleaver, then something must be wrong. As a side note, it will take you very, very far in life, in your confidence, in your uncovering what your purpose is and who you are in Christ. If you don't already know this, I am here to tell you one enormous piece of wisdom. I say this from experience. I'm 50 years old now, and I have seen it over and over and over again. The people who paint the most perfect picture of a perfect life with a perfect family on social media tend to be the people who are usually hiding behind those false images of happiness or insecure in who they are. But over and again, I have seen with great sadness, that they tend to be the ones that are secretly falling apart behind the scenes. Don't let the apparent perfection posted all over social media betray you. Don't compare yourself to the perfect photos posted in the perfect moment. You didn't see the moments before or after that photo. No one's life is that perfect. I promise you. It's almost predictable now, and it makes me really, really sad to say it. If we can't be real and post the truth about the difficult days, the hard parts, or at best, have a sense of humor about the struggles we encounter with our kids, with our spouses, with life, I just don't see how we can survive striving to be perfect. No one is like that. We have to be real. We have to be honest. And to know someone is in the same trench as you during a difficult time, or someone who has been through the same trenches, is like finding your soul sister. You want to reach out for a high five and say, "Oh my gosh, we've got this. Me too. I'm dealing with this too." This is what I find empowering and beautiful about social media when it is used to support one another in a positive way. You may be wondering at this point how this circles into the coming into the quiet, but all of that pressure to be someone, to do something, maintain an image is simply noise. It's all noise that distracts you from being content. It stirs anxiousness in your heart that prevents the peace and the calm we so desperately need to rejuvenate our bodies, our minds, and our souls. And all those feels mess with our hormones, that mess with our emotions, and through a long chain of events, mess with the well-being of our entire body. The hardest thing for me when I was hospitalized, but ultimately when I was recovering for almost a year off and on after being septic, was watching incredibly generous friends and family, and even my husband and kids doing their best to clean my house, fold the laundry, take care of my children, get them to activities. They didn't fold the laundry how I would have or clean the house like I did. The dishes weren't returned to their perfect spot, but I was so incredibly grateful for the physical generosity of the people doing the chores I physically wasn't able to do. I desperately wanted to be able to just clean my house. You know it's bad when that's your prayer, to just be able to clean your own house. I learned not only to let go of the expectations, but even more difficult, to just smile and say thank you. Thank you for generously serving my family. It was so hard to receive help, but I couldn't do it. And there was nothing wrong with how they so graciously took care of us. Letting other people manage my household and clean and do for me was incredibly difficult, especially when you're used to being the mom and in charge of the house and the list and the calendar and the kids. When I could not physically do any of it, it was the most humbling time for me, probably in my life. It was truly a time of breaking the stronghold for me of my expectations of a beautifully decorated home and a spotless house, or perfectly organized cabinets, or children's clothes that were lined up perfectly in their closet. That all went out the window. But none of it mattered anymore. All that mattered to me was being under the same roof as my family, out of the hospital after 9 weeks, and on the mend. I certainly like a clean home, and I like order, and I like organization. But even today, my only battle is in my own head. I am still learning to let go of the 5 baskets of laundry or more that need to be folded in order to trade it for sitting with my family on the couch and watching a movie or playing a game. I plan less, which drives my larger family absolutely crazy, but rolling with it is so much less stressful, more fun, and it's funny how everything always gets done. I can see them rolling their eyes right now. I hear you, I see you, I know who you are, but everything always falls into place. Learning to breathe, learning to relax and smell the roses is a lesson we all can benefit from. Some might accuse me of not planning far enough ahead, but in my heart, I have simply reprioritized what I am willing to exchange for stress, working on letting all things roll off like water on a duck's back, and I am so much happier for it. Returning back to the prayer that was at our opening of our couples weekend, it said, "Soothe my tiredness, quiet my fretfulness, curb my aimlessness, relieve my compulsiveness." I smile because I can so relate. Let me be easy for a moment. Let me be easy for a moment. I choose easy in the context of choosing peace like a river, just flowing with ease. Life is too short to get all tangled up and spun up over trivial things that in the long run really don't matter. It's okay if I push pause on the long list of to-dos or skip a meeting just this once or take an extra 15 minutes to sit in the quiet when no one else is around, to just be still. I kind of laugh a little bit thinking, it's kind of like the order of birth in your family. You would never dream of letting your first child skip school. And then by the time you get down to the third child, you're like, oh, whatever. Yeah, let's have a day together. I have come a very, very long way because reading this is not who I used to be. I have learned through a lot of work to just be still. And it is okay to walk away in the middle of total chaos and madness in your house. I have 3 boys. I can't say that enough. It is chaos and madness most days. And find a quiet closet, which I have locked myself in before, or a chair, or the patio, or get in your car and go on a drive and park. Just park somewhere and be alone in the quiet to just breathe. As I mentioned before, the prayer goes on to say, release me from the fears and guilts, expectations and opinions which grip me so tightly. While I do think many people have a hard time, like I did when I was a young mom, with expectations and opinions of others, my life completely shifted when I got sick. The pendulum swung away from caring about the opinions of others and towards the fears and guilts of a million things. They are no better in the scheme of trusting in the Lord with all of my heart, fearing not, because I know that God is with me, knowing that God has the plans that He has for me, plans for me to prosper and for me not to be harmed. But I became eaten up with the fear that my kids were impacted by having a sick mom, or a mom that missed their big events or trophy moments, a mom that was overcome with guilt that I somehow was taking away from their perfect life by missing the school Valentine party, or not having the best Halloween costume, or maybe them having to miss practice because I couldn't get my medical needs pulled together in order to take them. My expectations of perfection for them were scarred. I didn't care as much about my being perfect or opinions of others, as I had blown past that long ago, but I was caught up in the guilt of being unable to provide the perfect life for them. For my kids to have every opportunity to say their life was idyllic. The irony in all of that is that when I asked my kids about that very long year of sickness and healing, they don't remember much at all. They remember grandparents and friends being around a lot, and I couldn't ask for more than that. And the larger elephant in the room, our kids don't need a perfect life. Honestly, they need a less than perfect life. I was misplacing my guilt and fear when it was good for them to see how we manage struggles and trials in our house. They needed to see us pray together to get through the hard times. If we didn't model our response to difficult times to our kids, how would they know how to manage difficult times when they come for them? If they have expectations of perfection in life, what happens when things aren't perfect for them? That's a big one. All of those self-imposed fears and feelings of guilt that were no doubt detrimental to my body and my health, as I spent several months in EMDR therapy that I've talked about before, learning how to undo the negative effects of PTSD on my body, were completely unnecessary and certainly not grounded in my faith that God was in control. He held us in His hands. We were no longer slaves to fear, one of my favorite songs. We were, all 5 of us, children of God. The fear, the guilt, the opinions and expectations all stood in the way of our connection to God through the peace and the stillness and the deeper connection. I have heard the verse, and you probably have too, John 15:5, about the vine and the branches 100 times at least. Entire books and Bible studies have been written about abiding in Christ, just with this chapter in John. Simply being in the moment all the time in constant discussion or prayer with God. To abide, by the dictionary, means to live with. I love this illustration of pruning a vine for the perfect fruit to form with God's love and God's attention, but also illustrating that we must remain in Christ. Apart from Him, we can do nothing. So the verse is John 15:5. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I have heard deep discussions about how God is the solid vine and he prunes the branches, us, like a gardener, pruning off the stems and the little branches that aren't producing good fruit in our lives or even withering in order to allow the healthy branches to produce even more fruit. God prunes us and shapes us to grow into a beautifully shaped vine if we choose to remain close to him. One of the best books I've ever read, side note, albeit very thick language, it's like old English, is Abiding in Christ by Andrew Murray. I can't recommend it more, but it is definitely one that takes patience in reading. I'll link it up in the show notes. I think it was written in like the early 1900s or late 1800s. Like it's really thick language, but every sentence is so meaningful and quotable. There is so much to learn from the parable of the vine. However, this weekend, after reading this verse for the 101st time at least, and the speaker illustrating the image of the vine, I saw this verse in a way that I have never seen it before. God is the vine, yes. The nutrients come from the earth through the vine's roots, God, and flow into the branches, us. Still following? So while so much happens for God to allow the vine to grow, for God to produce good fruit with all the nutrients and minerals coming through the soil, while he's also pruning away the withering stems that steal nutrients from our branches, like the suckers. I call those suckers on a tree. We have only one responsibility in the entire story. Our only job in that entire story as the branch is to stay connected to the vine, to stay connected to God. Just simply stay connected. God does everything else. We are already connected. We just have to stay connected. Staying connected to the vine is abiding or living with, as I said above. Being in a constant relationship of simply making sure our branch remains connected to the vine, our only job. There are so many ways to stay connected to our vine. Being still and spending time alone in prayer, letting go of our racing thoughts, and peeling back all the stresses while just resting. Doesn't that sound amazing? Reduce the noise, limit the distractions and all the things that prevent your singular job as the branch of remaining connected to the vine. Come into the quiet. The better we remain connected to the vine, the better we remain connected to the people we love in our lives, the better we show up to love them and let all the superficial and unimportant things fall away. Don't be so scattered and distracted and hurried like I was. Simply stay connected to the vine by coming to the peace and the quiet, training ourselves away from the crazy. Chase the quiet like it's your most important job, because in the quiet, we find the renewing of our hearts and minds, giving our bodies and souls rest so that we can be renewed every day, thus continuing the cycle of peace over the cycle of chaos that so easily distracts us and is so easy to come by. Come to the quiet. Try it and tell me how you like it. Have a good day.
One of the best additions to my daily routine that shifted my understanding of holistic health was my USDA organic high-quality CBD oil. CBD is often misunderstood because not all CBD is the same. You do not feel this. This reputable family-owned company in North Carolina allowed me to get off opiates and live life without pain again. It is safe for ages 0 to 100 and can also help with joints, mood, sleep, future age-related annoyances, and so much more. You can check out my website at pennysampler.com, which includes $10 off your first order. I am incredibly passionate about sharing its benefits. If you would like personal assistance with selecting the products, please fill out the simple health assessment quiz in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review if you're so willing, and help spread the message of Becoming Natural by sharing it with a friend. Check out the resources in the show notes and join the email list to stay on top of all the latest and greatest happenings at Becoming Natural as we roll out exciting new things while we grow. Until next time, take those baby steps to a more natural life and always give yourself grace. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. See you next week.